I'm at the bad guy for splashing women with water at the pool. Swimming is my hobby and how I keep healthy. My favorite swimming pool is the local university pool. As a graduate, I have access, but they also have community hours when people from the town can pay and swim. It doesn't do lane swimming, but typically everyone knows to stay away from those doing laps. I was doing laps at the far end with a pool wall on my side, so I couldn't move if I wanted to. I was mid-session when two women my age jumped right in front of me and just stood there by the wall on the shallow end. I couldn't stop in time and pushed from the wall between them, forcing them to move aside. I was being more careful next lap, but they just kept standing there. There was plenty of space on the other side of the pool where they could stand and chat without bothering anyone, but they chose to stand right in front of me. So I continued swimming and pushing from the wall. If they refused to move, I just turned in water, make sure to make a big splash. I took a break to drink some water, and one of them started screaming at me how I got her hair all wet. I told her it's her fault and continued swimming. She waited for me in the changing rooms and went on about how I was inconsiderate and ruining her hair. I told her to f off. She started going off at me and started screaming, calling me a bad guy. I grabbed my stuff and went to one of the cubicles to have a shower and change. When I was leaving, they were talking to the manager. One of them was crying about her hair. I told my sister and she thinks I wasn't a bad guy. But I don't think so before. Now with my sister agreeing and worried that I might have been. And also, just to add, I was the only person there when they came in. They had the whole pool to stand and they chose to propulsively stand in front of me without swimming at all. The pool is 25 meters long and you swim lengthwise, from deep to shallow and then back. They had whole shallow end well free, except for the meter or so I used for kicking off. I didn't take the whole shallow end. Who will do laps there? Except for kids. While there is no designed lap lines, lap swimming isn't forbidden. Typically during open swim, 75% of swimmers do lap swimming. They weren't old ladies, they were about my age, early 30s. I didn't leave the pool to grab water. I had water on the edge along with my other stuff for drills or my air plugs, etc. This is perfectly normal and acceptable. So, what do you think? Am I the bad guy here? Am I the bad guy for forcing my daughter to learn sign language? I recently married my husband, who has a deaf 7-year-old daughter. She communicates only via ASL. For some background, my daughter is generally a very non-problematic teenager. She does amazing in school and has never caught any problems or done regular teenage hormone stuff. However, she doesn't like my husband and stepdaughter. This is not outwardly rude, but basically ignores their existence. Skipped Asday's birthday party, doesn't engage in anything other than basic small talk with my husband. I did try to do family activities together to help the bond and all, but I stopped pushing it when it didn't happen, and as long as she not being outwardly rude or harmful to them. I can't exactly punish her for not liking them. Now, since my relationship with my new husband started getting serious, I started taking ASL classes, and I'm now basically as fluent as a hearing person can be. My daughter, however, never made an effort, which is okay since she technically has no responsibility towards her. However, recently my daughter has started watching CD when we aren't around, which changes things. In my opinion, since she is now spending time in which she is responsible for a young child, she needs to learn at least basic communication. When I brought it up to her, she outright refused to make any efforts at all. I tried recommending YouTube videos, but she refused to try learning even a couple of words, saying she is not responsible for my choice to be in the life of the disabled child. This issue has also been causing a lot of problems in my marriage. My husband confided in me that he is starting to feel uncomfortable with his young daughter living with someone who is so cold. She refuses to make even the most basic effort or engage with her at all. He has brought up that he is considering divorce due to his concerns about how CD will be affected by this. So given all that, I had to finally put my foot down. I told my daughter that we have a disabled person living in our household for the foreseeable future, and if she wants to live here for college, graduating next month, She has to at least learn basic SL. She doesn't have to like her stepfather and stepsister, nor does she have to hang out with them, but she has to have the ability to communicate with her for the sake of safety and basic decency. I made it clear that if she chooses not so, she is welcome to live in a dorm, what I will pay for. It's just that living in our house, that is also my CG's house, my husband and I pay for the house equally, comes with basic rules. Well, my daughter hasn't spoken to me for 7 days, so it's about time I ask, am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for not being upset that my friend's dog could die because of me? I was hosting a big garden party at the weekend. I invited my entire friend group plus their partners. One of my friends take her dog everywhere. I told her no pets were allowed. Although it was a garden party, we were in and out of my home, and I have 4 cats. My cats don't like dogs, and neither do I. Anyway, my friend showed up with her dog. I told her that her dog was not welcome in my home or garden, and asked her to please take her dog home or elsewhere. I thought my friend left. I went inside to short time things out. I went into my garden about 15 minutes later, and my friend was standing there in my garden talking to other friends. She doesn't live that close, so I was confused. I went to ask her how she got back so quickly. She told me she just popped in and was gone since her dog isn't welcome. I asked her where your dog is, and she shrugged her shoulders and said he was around. I went looking and found him at the bottom of the garden eating my crops and making a mess. I was angry and told my friend to go her dog off my property. A few hours later, she called me, asking me what her dog ate. I had no clue. My gardening plants and attends everything. I told her I didn't know, but told her he'd made a huge mess, dug things up and clearly eaten things. She shouted at me that her dog is sick and that I need to find out what the dog ate. I told her I had no idea, but I will text my gardener to ask, but it was really her problem. I did send the text, but my gardener didn't answer. My friend called again, wanted to know what her dog ate, but I told her I still didn't know. She told me I obviously don't care if her dog dies and called me a bad guy. I still don't know what her dog ate, but apparently he's very sick and might die. I feel bad, but I told her not to bring her dog on my property, so I don't feel responsible like she says I am. After being unable to reach my gardener, I took pictures of everything the dog dug up, which was a lot, and sent them to my friend. But I have no idea what it ate and what it just dug up. And for all I know, that it ate isn't even pictured because the whole section is a mess. This wasn't good enough for her. She wants me to tell her exactly what it ate, and I just don't know, and don't want to spend hours trying to figure it out when I don't even know if it can be figured out. So, am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for forgetting what I did for my husband for Father's Day last year? My husband and I have been married for 10 years and we have 3 kids. Yesterday was Mother's Day, and my husband is notoriously bad at gift giving and that sort of thing. I have rather specific tastes, so I pretty much have to coach him on what I want for birthdays, Christmas, anniversary, etc. But to my surprise, yesterday he actually did a pretty good job. He had the kids all make me handmade cards, made me breakfast in bed, and took the kids out of the house for the afternoon so I could get mani-pedi and relax, and got me a nice bottle of wine with some fancy cheese and chocolate. Last night after the kids went to bed, I thanked him for a great day and expressed how surprised I was that he actually stepped up. He told me I deserve it, but also said that he hopes that I can do something similar for him for Father's Day this year. I asked him what that's supposed to mean, and he asked me if I remember what I did for the Father's Day last year, but I couldn't remember. He then reminded me that I did nothing for him for Father's Day last year. Then I remembered that for the Father's Day last year, I was at my sister's wedding. My younger sister had a small, out-of-state, child-free wedding last June, which happened to be on Father's Day weekend. I was the maid of honor, and since our kids couldn't come, my husband stayed home with them while I was gone for the Thursday or Sunday. I had every intention of still doing something for him for Father's Day, but I must have completely forgotten and he never brought it up to me. So I felt a little blindsided and put on the spot when he asked me to remember what I did. I told him that I'm sorry I forgot to do anything for him last year, but that I don't appreciate being put on the spot like that. I also don't appreciate the implication that I purposely forgot or did not for him on purpose. I had a lot of things going on that time last year, and I fully admit that I spaced it out and completely forgot. That's my fault and I accept it. But don't rub my face on it. I asked him why he didn't just bring it up to me, and he said it's not his responsibility to remind me about that sort of thing. He said he didn't bring it up because he figured I will just get defensive about it and try to make excuses, exactly like I was doing right then. Then he reminded me that I also forgot to get him anything for his birthday last year. I told him that I didn't forget. His gift was just delivered late. He then told me that he has access to our Prime account too, and he saw that I didn't even order it until the day of his birthday. I told him he was being a jerk and ruining what was up until then. A perfectly good Mother's Day. He said he's not trying to be a jerk, he's just letting me know that he needs to feel that there is some reciprocation for this kind of thing. Now I feel like he only stopped up so he could rip in my face that I didn't do anything for him last year. So am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for booking a hotel room as part of a date night? So backstory. My girlfriend and I have been dating for 5 years. We're living together for almost 3 now. 2 months ago we adopted a rescue dog. We love the dog and having him has been amazing so far except for one small problem. The dog developed extreme attachment to my girlfriend and won't let her out of sight even for a minute. This is not a big problem since work is flexible and we have made it work. However, our intimate time has taken a deep hit since we can never close the door of our bedroom without our doggy-loggy howling and crying. So we are working on this separation anxiety separately and hopefully it will get better on time. Lately, we joked about how we can remember the last time we had sex and how we will never have a private time ever again. Oh, for good loves, just. Last weekend, while browsing a website that lists discounted products and special promotions, I stumbled upon a great deal of a fancy hotel in our city. 10 minutes walking distance from our place. I immediately thought about her and booked the hotel and a table for dinner as well, thinking about it as a nice way to enjoy a casual date night and provide us for some space for us to be alone. I also made arrangements for a friend of ours to stay home with our puppy. After all the arrangements were done, I sent her a flirty message with the details of my plan. However, her answer was way different to what I expected. She called me immediately and yelled at me. In her words, she was furious that I booked everything without asking her first, and disappointed that after so long time of being together, I will believe she will be happy about such a plan. Also, a waste of money and I'm stupid thing to do given we live in the same city. It's been now a couple of days and she's still angry at me and I feel a deep weight inside. I never expected this kind of reaction and started to consider I did something outrageous. I already apologized and canceled the whole order. However, I can't stop thinking about it and can't even be able to sleep since. So, also, yeah, we both have great salaries and spend this kind of money on regular days for dinner. She has mentioned a few times that she wishes we were able to have sex and cuddle comfortably without worrying about the dog. We have to close the door because if the dog is in the room, he jumps in bed every time. It's not about him, just watching us doing it. So, am I the bad guy here? Am I the bad guy for asking a couple to stop changing their baby's diaper in the middle of a plane? I was on a flight for several hours today, seated behind a couple with a baby. I'm a really nauseous flyer, so I took a Dramamine ahead of time and did my best to get some sleep during the flight. This didn't happen because of the baby's crying. But oh well, I know flights are scary and stressful for infants, and there was nothing anyone could do about that. What got to me was the couple changing their baby's extremely stinky diaper right in the middle of the seats. Using the mom's food tray as a changing table, we were at the back of the plane, right by the bathrooms, which I confirmed had baby changing tables when I had to go back there or to throw up when the smell hit me. I didn't say anything the first time, but the second time I heard them go into the diaper bag a couple hours later, I asked if they could please go use the plane bathroom instead of exposing everyone on the plane to smell. The mom went out of me, saying I had no idea how stressful it is to travel with an infant. Which is true, I don't have kids. The flight attendant at the back of the plane agreed with me and asked them to use only the bathroom to change their baby. Plus, a few minutes later, the pilot made an announcement that all diaper changing needed to be done in the bathrooms, after which both parents looked extremely annoyed. So, I'm at the bad guy for asking them to stop changing their baby in the middle of the plane and bringing it to the attention of the flight crew. I'm at the bad guy for asking my best friend not to invite my sister-in-law to my baby shower. My best friend is hosting my baby shower. She's getting invites ready now, and after repeatedly having trouble with my sister-in-law Mag, I asked her to take her name off the invite list and not send one. My husband is full support on this. The issue is my daughter's middle name and some very hurtful comments Meg made. My family have a tradition that started several generations ago, where we give the first girl the middle name Moon. It was a tradition started by an ancestor of mine who believed in nature healing, and the story goes she prayed to the moon when she was pregnant with her child, believing she was miscarrying and that she believed the moon saved her child, and when her daughter was born, she gave her the middle name Moon as a tribute, and for a few generations after they continued to do this with their first girls as a tribute. But then later, it just became this nice, of a little unusual because of the name tradition, and the fact it survived a more patriarchal society, and was continued even when men usually cared little for their wife's family tradition made it special. I'm the first daughter in my family, and it's my middle name. My husband was always in love with the idea of continuing, and he also thinks it's great that the middle name is more out there and usual in terms of names. Early in my pregnancy, Meg made a comment that she hoped we weren't going to give our daughter that silly name, and my husband was like, "We are, yeah." Meg rolled her eyes and said it's time to end it. My husband told her it was none of her business. Meg asked me a couple of weeks after that what our first name choices were, and whether we were trying to make a name sound good with the moon. I told her that my husband and I were not discussing a name outside of each other. She told me we'd need help if we are going to do that to our child, meaning give her Moon as a middle name. My husband picked up a mobile of stars for our baby's room, and Meg commented that I was weird enough to suggest naming our baby Star. My husband made her leave. Then about 2 weeks ago, she sent me a this Word document to be an article on middle names being weird. Could be just as harmful as when first names are weird. And in her message she said that my parents were shitty, but it didn't mean I should follow in their footsteps. I told my husband, and he told her to go f herself already and leave us alone. So with all of this, I don't want her there. But Meg is pissed, and this caused a divine among my in-laws. Meg said I was selfish and that I was only thinking of myself and not my daughter. First I give her a weird name, then I come between her and her brother, and now I'm dividing the whole family and leaving her out of a family celebration for her baby niece. So, am I the bad guy? Am I the bad guy for not inviting the girl I am dating to my birthday party in another country? So, regarding who pays for whom across different cultures, she's of Eastern European heritage and claimed that she always paid for the guests on her birthday. I offered to pay both our meals and she declined. I offered to pay at least mine and she declined. Please don't focus on this tiny detail, what makes me a bad guy or something different, so please just listen. I turned 30 in January. I'm living in Australia and my mom is Italian living in Italy. I plan to celebrate my birthday with 25 other people in June, mostly from Australia and a few Italians. I'm going to pay for food and drinks and they're gonna pay for the accommodation and traveling there. In February, I started dating Anna, also Australian, and we are still dating. When we were in the talking phase before we went out, she was telling me she was quite shy, and I said, "So I'm celebrating my birthday in Italy in June. Will you find an excuse not to come? Haha." So fast forward, she had her birthday in May, and we went together to a fancy restaurant for which she paid. I told her I usually pay for the people I invite only if it's affordable. Like, for example, for my birthday in Italy, I won't pay for my friend's accommodation at the villa in flight tickets. She asked, "Is it a party you subtly invited me to before we ever went to one date? Haha." I couldn't remember. I thought that was the first time I mentioned it, and she showed me the text in our chat. I got kind of awkward because I couldn't have known that was going to happen, and we are still supposed to discuss what we are because we're busy building a startup. She said, referring to my text back then, "Don't worry, I don't do that, but in this case, I won't even need to find an excuse." So, am I the bad guy here?